The Book of Judges, in most Sunday school treatments, gets framed as a sequence of inspiring heroes who delivered Israel: Gideon's 300, Samson and the Philistines, Deborah and Barak. But that framing misses what the book is actually doing. Read in order. Judges isn't a hero anthology. It's a controlled demonstration of a civilization in slow motion collapse. Each judge is a deliverer, yes, but each one is also a step lower than the one before, morally, spiritually, and strategically. The cycle that starts with a clean, faithful judge ends by the final chapter, with Israelite tribes slaughtering each other while no foreign enemy is even in the picture. Once you see the trajectory the book is mapping, the judges stop reading as victories and start reading as a warning. Each cycle didn't just repeat, it deteriorated, and the writer of Judges set it up that way on purpose. Here's the descent, judge by judge, and exactly why each one was worse than the last. The pattern is established explicitly in Judges 2:11-19. Israel does evil. God hands them to oppressors. They cry out. He raises a judge. They're delivered. The judge dies. They fall further. And verse 19 is the operative line. But whenever the judge died, they turned back and were more corrupt than their fathers. That phrase isn't decorative. It's the thesis of the entire book. Each cycle ends worse than where it started. Othniel, Judges 3:7-11, is the baseline. Son of Kenaz and related to Caleb, he delivers Israel from Cushan-Rishathaim, king of Mesopotamia, 40 years of peace. The text records no failures, no weaknesses, no moral complications. He's the template. Every judge afterward will be measured against this clean version, and everyone will fall short of it in a different way. Ehud, Judges 3:12-30, is the left-handed Benjaminite, a detail that matters because Benjamin literally means son of the right hand, so the wordplay is intentional. Ehud delivers from Eglon, king of Moab. 80 years of peace follow. But notice what's already changing. Ehud delivers through deception. He hides a sword on his right thigh, gains a private audience with Eglon under the pretense of tribute, and assassinates him in his summer chamber. The text isn't condemning the act. Eglon was a legitimate oppressor, but the method matters. The clean, miraculous victory has shifted to the espionage thriller. Step 1 of the descent, faithful boldness gives way to clever subterfuge. Shamgar, Judges 3:31, gets one verse, kills 600 Philistines with an ox goad, a farming tool. Almost no detail, the brevity itself is telling. The writer isn't lingering, the cycle is already accelerating. But then the pattern breaks in a more concerning way. Israel's next deliverer arrives, and the man supposed to lead the army refuses to do it unless a woman goes with him. Deborah and Barak, Judges 4-5. Deborah is a prophetess and a judge already governing Israel. When she summons Barak to lead the army against Sisera, his response in 4:8 is, "If you will go with me, I will go, but if you will not go with me, I will not go." Deborah agrees, but warns him in 4:9 that the glory for the victory will go to a woman. That woman ends up being Jael, a non-Israelite who drives a tent peg through Sisera's head while he sleeps in her tent. The story is a victory, but it's also a quiet indictment of Israel's male leadership. The judge cycle now needs a woman to step into a role the men won't take. Step 2 of the descent, Gideon, Judges 6-8, is where the deterioration becomes undeniable. He's introduced hiding in a winepress, threshing wheat because he's afraid of the Midianites, 6:11. He demands signs from God twice with the fleece. He destroys his father's Baal altar at night because he's afraid to do it during the day, 6:27. God deliberately whittles his army from 32,000 down to 300, so Gideon can't claim credit. After the victory, the people offer to make him king. He refuses, but then takes the gold earrings from the plunder and makes a cultic ephod. Judges 8:27 specifically records that all Israel whored after it there, and it became a snare to Gideon and to his family. The man who broke down an idol ends his career building a new one. He also has 70 sons by multiple wives, plus a son by a concubine in Shechem named Abimelech. Abimelech, Judges 9, isn't formally listed as a judge by the text, but he's the direct consequence of Gideon's compromise. Abimelech murders 69 of his 70 half-brothers on one stone to seize power, 9:5. Only the youngest, Jotham, escapes. Abimelech rules 3 years and dies in disgrace. A woman drops a millstone on his head from a tower, and he asks his armor-bearer to finish him off so it can't be said a woman killed him, 9:54. This is the anti-judge. Israel's deliverers were supposed to free people. Abimelech enslaves and slaughters his own family. But Abimelech isn't even the bottom of the spiral. The judges that follow include one whose vow costs him his daughter, and one who starts a civil war that kills tens of thousands of fellow Israelites. Tola and Jair, Judges 10, 1-5 are minor judges. Tola judges 23 years. Jair has 30 sons riding 30 donkeys. The text is rushing through to get to what's next. Jephthah, Judges 11-12, is the son of a prostitute, driven out by his half-brothers, leading a band of worthless men before being recalled to fight the Ammonites. Before battle, he makes a rash vow: whatever comes out of his house first, when he returns victorious, he'll offer to the Lord as a burnt offering. His only child, his daughter, comes out to meet him. The text records in 1139 that he carried out his vow. Scholars debate whether she was literally sacrificed or devoted to perpetual virginity, but either reading is dark. Then Jephthah faces a complaint from the tribe of Ephraim and responds by starting a civil war. The Ephraimites are identified by their inability to pronounce Shibboleth correctly. They say Sibboleth. 42,000 Ephraimites die, 12:6. Israelites killing Israelites at scale. Ibzan, Elon, and Abdon, Judges 12:8-15, follow as minor judges, notable mostly for their many wives, sons, and donkeys. The narrative is sketching them as locally wealthy patriarchs more than spiritual deliverers. The cycle is now producing dynasties instead of saviours. And then comes the final judge of the book, and he is, by almost any measure, the most personally compromised of all of them. Samson, Judges 13-16, is set apart as a Nazirite from the womb, given supernatural strength and tasked with beginning to deliver Israel from the Philistines. But he breaks his Nazirite vows repeatedly. He touches a dead lion's carcass and eats honey from it, 14:8-9, violating the Nazirite prohibition against contact with the dead. He attends a drinking feast, 14:10, violating the prohibition against wine. And eventually, his hair, the final sign of the vow, is cut, 16:19. His career is driven almost entirely by personal vendetta and physical desire. A Philistine wife, a Philistine prostitute, then Delilah. He kills more Philistines in his death than in his life. But his life never produces a national repentance, only personal episodes. The spirit-empowered deliverer ends his life blind, captive, and grinding grain in an enemy prison. The book then closes with two horrifying appendices, Judges 17-21. A man named Micah sets up a private shrine with stolen silver and ordains a wandering Levite as his personal priest, then loses both shrine and priest to the migrating tribe of Dan. After that, a Levite's concubine is raped and murdered by the men of Gibeah, and Israel goes to war against the tribe of Benjamin in response, nearly wiping out the entire tribe, then resorting to mass kidnapping of women to repopulate it, 21:21-23. No judge appears in these final chapters. The system has fully broken, and the writer of Judges underlines what's happening with a single phrase, repeated to bookend the final section. In those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. 17:6 and 21:25. That refrain is the book's diagnosis. Without unified leadership under God, every individual becomes the moral authority of their own life, and the result is collective collapse. So when you read every judge in order, the pattern is unmistakable. Othniel, faithful and clean. Ehud, faithful but operating through deception. Deborah, faithful, but the male leadership has already failed around her. Gideon, hesitant, eventually idolatrous, leaving an heir who becomes the anti-judge. Jephthah, military success, personal tragedy, civil war. Samson, gifted, broken, ultimately only effective in death. By the end, no judges even mentioned because Israel has stopped needing foreign enemies. It's destroying itself. The book of Judges isn't ultimately about heroes, it's about what happens when a covenant community drifts generation by generation away from the one unifying authority that held it together, and how even the people God raises up to fix it carry the symptoms of the drift they're trying to reverse. The cycles got worse because the rot was internal. Foreign oppression was always just the consequence. The real enemy, the book argues, was always inside the camp.